Good morning. Today we'll discuss the pictorial quality or the imagery in Tagore's Gitanjali. To begin with, we can say that there is an abundance of imagery of various kinds in Gitanjali, and most of it is concrete and vivid, though we can say that there is a plenty of abstract imagery also. But the profusion of imagery is both concrete and abstract. It is one of the most striking features of this collection of poems. Predominantly, the imagery of natural objects, natural phenomena, natural processes, and this imagery is perfectly vivid so that we feel as if we have been transported to the countryside or where we are actually witnessing the scenes of nature, and sometimes we even feel that we are transported to the oceans, the rivers, and even to the places that are like skies and stars. However, the nature imagery does not occur in Gitanjali by itself or for its own sake. Nature imagery is here interwoven with the poet's religious feelings. The kind of imagery occurs mostly when the poet is expressing his pantheistic belief, and as we can say about the abstract imagery in Gitanjali, it relates mainly to Tagore's perception of God and of the divine spirit within his own heart. Imagery of one kind or another is essential and almost indispensable in any work of art, because it is only through imagery that a writer can show or impart a visible shape or give a visible shape to what he wants to say. Sometimes imagery is essential to build up the setting in which a writer has to place his characters or his ideas. So, no writer can write in a vacuum or in a void. First, when we look at Gitanjali, it looks that nature imagery is interwoven with the poet's religious feelings. In the very opening poem, we have the picture of a little flute made of a reed, which God has been carrying over hills and dales, and through which God has been breathing melodies eternally new. The little flute here is the poet's human body, which God has been filling with an ever fresh life. In one of the poem that follows, Tagore imagines himself as a little flower and asks God to pluck this flower without any delay, unless it should droop and drop into the dust. Tagore here further says that though the color of this flower may not be deep and the scent may not be that strong, yet God can use this flower, and that it should therefore be plucked before it is too late. Here, the metaphor of a flower has been employed in order to convey the idea of the poet's capacity to serve God in some way or the other before his life comes to an end. In another poem, Tagore employs the imagery of nature to express the idea that his soul has started its quest for God long, long ago, and so he writes that he had come out on the chariot of the first beam of light and pursued his voyage through many worlds, leaving his track on many a star and planet. In another poem, Tagore employs the imagery of nature to convey the darkness in his heart and to express the hope that his heart is harboring. And so he writes that clouds heap upon clouds and the darkness is spreading. At the end of the poem, he says that he keeps gazing at the faraway gloom of the sky with his heart wailing with the restless wind. in one of other poem, the imagery of nature to describe is his prolonged search of God is shown, where the poet says that he must begin his voyage because the waves have become clamorous and because the yellow leaves of trees are fluttering and falling. He then asks himself if he cannot feel a thrill passing through the air with the notes of the faraway song coming from the other shore. Then we come to the abstract imagery in the poems of Gitanjali. They are mostly referred to the presence of God or God's approach or just a hint of God's arrival. For instance, one poem begins with the following picture of God: "You came down from your throne and stood at my cottage door." Here we can certainly visualize the cottage door and we can even visualize a throne. But what God looked like, we cannot visualize. Therefore, we have here an abstract picture of God mingled with a concrete picture of a throne and a cottage door. In the next poem, we are told of a chariot carrying a king. The chariot stops at a spot where the poet stood and he is waiting for some alms. The king, instead of giving anything to the beggar, asks him what he has to give to him. The beggar, however, nothing else with him, gives the king a single grain of corn. When the beggar goes home, he finds a piece of gold in his bag. Here we have a story which shows that everything is fine or described in concrete terms, and in which the only abstraction is the king described in concrete terms and who is traveling in the chariot. The king here is an abstraction because he is God himself. In another poem, Tagore describes most of the things in concrete terms. He speaks of the sky, the nest, the morning with its golden basket, the evening coming upon the pasture grounds, and so on. But there is an abstract picture depicting God as the stainless with white radiance. Another abstract picture of God imagined is like he is an immanent spirit, which occurs in the poem in which Tagore speaks of the same stream of life running through the world, through the dust of the earth, through the ocean cradle of birth and death, and through the poet's own limbs. Here, the poet's pantheistic creed has been expressed through a number of concrete pictures, with only the divine spirit remaining absolutely beyond our powers of imagination. One of the pictures, an abstract picture of God is also given to us in the poem in which Tagore imagines himself standing face to face before God. Here everything is concrete with the exception of God, who is described as the Lord of the poet's life, the Lord of all the worlds and the King of kings. Here a concrete picture in this poem is, we can say with this quote, "In this laborious world of thine, tumultuous with toil and with struggle, among hurrying crowds that I shall stand before thee face to face." This picture is concrete with the exception of the word thee, which here refers to the God. Thank you. We'll continue with the remaining in the next lecture.